This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, nerds. I'm Mark Weber, and you are listening to A Graphic Conversation, the bi-weekly podcast where we read, discuss, and suggest the best and hopefully not the worst in graphic novels. I am joined, as I always am, by the original man-child, Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And today, we're going to do Godzilla, Kingdom of Monsters, Volume 1. This is the IDW, not Marvel, Godzilla. So, obviously, there's a Godzilla movie that exists. You might have watched it, depending on if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into monsters destroying everything.
And I mean, with us pre-recording these before they go out, I even forget half the time if these come out the week before the movie, the week of the movie.
Sometimes they come out like right when the movie's out. The odds are when you're listening to this, you have, if you wanted to see the movie, you've seen the movie by the time you're listening to this one. If you are not familiar at all with this podcast, what we do is, like I said, we have read this graphic novel, Kingdom of Monsters, Volume 1, and we're going to talk about it first in a spoiler-free version, and then we're going to get into the spoilers about it, and we'll warn you before it happens, so you don't need to freak out or anything like that. We'll do that, and you can just be here for it. You don't have to have read it. You don't have to ever plan on reading it. If you want to, great, and then you can join in on the conversation.
This one's a week before. It's going to be the movie is coming out in a week from when you're listening to
Awesome.
this.
If you listen to it on the day it comes out. And you can join in that conversation by reading with it. You don't have to necessarily. Other things, of course, that you can do, give us money on Patreon, because then you can be on the podcast. And that's pretty cool. You can tell us what you think about these as well. So that'd be fun.
Or you can join, even at the bronze level, you can join Retro and Hubertus. And Hubertus always makes fun of me for how I say his name because I can never say it the correct way.
Hubertus or something like that?
Yeah, you can join them in our Discord server.
So there you go.
They are the first two to join.
And you can just talk to us too. Life's good.
You made a Harry Potter joke about the NBA, the Washington Wizards today, and I liked it.
Right? Gotta. I didn't put my phone on silent. There we go. Gotta make a good old Hagrid joke when you can make a good old Hagrid reference. So we're going to do this spoiler-free thing at the moment, talking about Godzilla, King of the Monsters, or just King of Monsters, Kingdom of Monsters, Volume 1. And it's Godzilla. I don't think there needs to be an explanation about Godzilla. It's Godzilla.
Well, I mean, the thing with this is, I'll be honest, it's a dry... to me, I'm saying it's a dry opening, to where my first reactions when I was opening and reading this, I was like, that first issue, I'm like, should we pick something else? Like, did I make a bad choice when picking this series of Godzilla for us to read? Because in that first issue, nothing really happens of importance. Yeah. It just kind of lays the scale. And I mean, overall, this was a collection of comics that kind of is like, all right, we're going to lay the groundwork for what's going to come. Nothing too big is going to happen. There was a few things we'll get into in spoiler mode, but really it's one of those where it's like, okay, now I at least know the landscape, and if I want to go on to Volume 2, I'm excited to maybe read Volume 2, but it's not something where it's like, oh my God, I have to read Volume 2.
Yeah, and from what I kind of have read online, it doesn't necessarily get better.
Mark's like, I looked into it so that Ricky doesn't make us read this whole thing.
It doesn't necessarily get better. And you know, this isn't necessarily bad by any stretch. This is my opinion on Godzilla, though, for those of you who haven't heard it already. There's no such thing as good or bad Godzilla. It is just a giant lizard monster who destroys things. Sometimes other monsters show up. They also destroy things. And that's really all there is to it.
Well, and I mean, it's kind of also what I've heard about the, like, way back, like, the Godzilla's, like, the first monster movies for Godzilla. It was like, it was never something where you didn't go to it because the quality was awesome or the story was awesome or the acting was awesome.
Yeah.
You went to it because it was fucking two guys in monster suits fighting, and you went for Godzilla. That is why you went to watch it, not for anything else.
Exactly. I mean, you're just kind of trying to enjoy the show. Mm-hmm. You want to see some destruction, you're going to see destruction. And they do a good job with the destruction in this. I mean, they make it seem real, as real as giant lizard monsters can seem.
Yeah.
And they kind of show you the horror of it. At times, I think they're not sure if they fully want to embrace that or not, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But it's interesting enough, and it's a fast read, so it's not like you sit there like some of the ones we've read and we're like, why did we do this to ourselves? Yeah. Do you have a who this is for? Who would enjoy this?
Godzilla fans. That's who would really enjoy this, I think. There are Godzilla fans. Like, there are
that lizard monster
fans of the whole, like, that whole genre of kind of Godzilla, the monsters that are like King Kong, all of those movies.
Yeah.
This would be for you, but it's not something where I'm saying, like, oh my God, go and read it today.
Yeah. I can get that. I can understand. I mean, I guess I'd have to agree that it's really for people who truly love Godzilla, because I don't think this really is anything that special for anyone else. And like I said, it's not bad. You're just going to get through it and go, oh, all right, and then you're going to put it down.
Well, and the tricky thing about, like, I know how you said, well, I looked into it and it didn't get much better. The tricky thing about this series, from what I'm seeing on Comixology, is that it's only 3 volumes, from what I'm seeing, or that's all they have listed. So if that's the case, it's like,
well, I think there was going to be a 4th one, and it didn't happen.
Okay.
And it's actually kind of interesting from what I looked into a little bit,
because this is not one that's like many years old. This was only a couple years old. Like, this one was from what? September of 2011.
Yeah. The interesting thing so it's interesting because if you look at the different volumes, you see that changes happen in it. Whether, it's writers, artists, whatever. Changes happen, and I was like, that's strange. Let me look at this. Just because I'm curious. And I look into it, and they talk about how there were certain plot points that never got resolved. And there were certain directions. They wanted to take a darker tone, and they never got the opportunity to do that with this story. So there's interesting things like that kind of go on with it. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily surprised that it didn't continue. And not just to trash this graphic novel or anything. Just I'm not really that surprised because of the fact that, well, I mean, Godzilla's not that popular. So it probably didn't sell that great. It is a very niche market. So there's that part to it. But then it also, unless it really takes off in the next one, I just sit there and I'm like, all right, I mean, it wasn't that exciting. And that's kind of one of the hard parts about that, is that it doesn't do anything to really capture you and make you go, yes, I need to keep going with this.
Well, and I mean, the thing I was excited for most when we were looking at what to read is, because now that I'm looking at just switching between them and looking at like the creators that they have listed.
Yeah.
Phil Hester is the artist for this volume 1. And the thing I remember coming in was, it was like, okay, I'm excited because he did Swamp Thing. And Swamp Thing is something where it's like that kind of horror genre from DC.
Yeah.
And I want to see that style with Godzilla. Then you go to volume 2. It's the same 2 people that wrote the story, and Tracy Marsh and Eric Powell, but Phil Hester no longer there. It is now Victor Santos that is now there.
Yeah.
And then in the 3rd one, they take the 2 people that wrote it. You're going to go bye-bye. Jason Caramella is coming in, and then Victor Santos is drawing it and putting the artwork to it. So, I mean, that is something that you could look at, and it's like, now that you bring that up, I've completely changed my tone, where it was like, yes, there is something that we're going to talk in spoiler mode. That was the one linchpin of like, I want to keep reading to see what happens to these 2. But now that you bring that up and I just look into it right now, I'm less excited and less likely to move on and read volume 2 and volume 3.
Yeah, it's just you want some kind of consistency to it. And it happens sometimes that you switch writers early on because it's just not working out. The vision doesn't work or whatever. They want to move on and do something else. But I do kind of feel like that makes you pause when you're already not super excited about it. Now, we say that, and I feel like we kind of need to move into the spoiler mode because not too much else we can talk about. So if anybody wants to read this, awesome. Go ahead and read it. Enjoy it. It's very fast. You'll get through it pretty quickly. And then you can join us join back in the conversation. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be here waiting right here for you.
I will sit here as long as you make me.
So go ahead and do that. If you don't want anything spoiled, press pause, not right now, but in a few seconds. If you don't care, just be here for the conversation. Awesome. That's great. So if you don't want anything spoiled, you can press pause now. But if you don't care, hey, welcome. We're in the spoiler zone. So should we talk about the twins? The psychic ladies.
Yeah, sure. We'll start with those because that was what I was talking about in non-spoiler mode. Those are the only two that were like, I wonder what's going on with these two.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of a mystical kind of element, especially interesting when you have, giant monsters all over the world that are coming to invade. Are they considered kaiju? Is Godzilla considered a kaiju?
Technically, I think.
Okay.
I think I've heard him referred to that once, but really that's a word I have not heard since Pacific Rim.
They're giant monsters, and I don't know who counts as a kaiju and who doesn't, or really much else of where the term really comes from. But yeah, so those twins could be interesting. I think they really could. If they went to, and I know, like I said, those writers said they wanted to take make darker choices, but I feel like that was the way they maybe could have done it.
Godzilla is a kaiju, the king of the kaiju, to be exact.
Oh.
Kaiju just means strange beast in Japanese.
Oh, okay.
And strange beast is the definition of monster. So king of the monsters, king of the kaiju. That's Godzilla.
I mean, he is a strange beast. I would agree with that for sure. Okay, so that's fair. All right, he's a kaiju. It's been decided. So, I don't know. Here's my thing with Godzilla. To me, Godzilla is interesting for that one scene where he comes in and destroys things. And then that's it. And they at least do a little bit with this. I mean, you can see.
So, like you can tell the one
trying.
scene where he comes out of the beach and he's got the kids in his mouth,
and he just starts destroying some stuff.
And you're dead.
Cool. You can tell that they tried. I mean, they had the pop culture references, which I think were a little heavy-handed.
The Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore. We have President Obama-ish in there. They're really, really trying to be like, hey, look, guys, pop culture. We're relevant.
This is set in the modern day.
Yeah, and that's one thing. You mentioned modern day. I at least appreciate that they established this is as if Godzilla had never shown up before. Because usually Godzilla's like, oh, yeah, he showed up in the 50s. This one's like, no, never happened. This is the first time he's here. So I appreciate that, but I don't know. Did you like the whole pop culture references and everything?
So, I mean, it didn't, for me, it didn't pull away from the story, if that's what you're asking.
Didn't
like,
make
I
you
actually
angry.
chuckled with the whole Jersey Shore parody in there because of how ridiculous they made them sound and made them look. And for me, one of the things I did like from this graphic novel is the humor that it tried to show in. Like, I think this is the end of the second volume that I'm looking at. Godzilla's doing his thing. He's wrecking the city. This one guy's like, I've got rockets and I've got dynamite and I'm going to blow you to smithereens. He jumps off a building thinking he's going to do something, hits the explode, and it's just like a right on Godzilla's nose to where it's
Doesn't
like,
work.
What was that? And it's like, it kind of puts that into perspective because I think that you think that it's like, okay, something like that should hurt Godzilla, but no, it's just a little like flick of the nose to where even Godzilla scratches it like, ugh, what was that? And then goes right back to laser beaming a building.
Yeah, as he should. And they even
as he should.
The moments of it where I appreciate, like, they had, I think it was Obama that made the joke. I don't know if it really is a joke from him, but the fact that he says, if you drop any more bombs on Godzilla, he's going to start shooting lasers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. To me, it has that very, like, Steve Buscemi walking into a high school being like, hey, we're all a bunch of teenagers. We're all cool, right?
Like that cartoon.
Exactly. Like, that's what it feels like to me, is just like they're trying. It's your mom trying really hard to talk to you about Pokemans, and how she loves that Pikachu, things like that. And you're just like, please stop. Please just no more. I don't know.
And that's the one thing. Nothing with this blew me away. And part of me is like, I'm kind of disappointed in that fact.
Yeah.
But then there's another part of me that's coming from the same part that you even said, where it's kind of like, it's Godzilla. Like, Godzilla comes in, he smashes real good, he does his little yell thing as he shoots his laser beam into the air, and then he goes home. We're happy.
Yeah, eventually he's going to kind of sort of get defeated where he just leaves.
Now, the thing that I found interesting, and even in the previews for the new Godzilla movie, you can see that they're taking influence maybe from this a little.
Yeah.
But I liked how they're like, oh my God, they're coming together. Is this something where they're going to team up against us? No. These monsters just want to kick the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Like, that's all they want to do. Like, the world is their playground, and we're just in their way. Because you got two of them come head to head. I can't remember what the armadillo one was called, with the, like, spiky back and the long alligator-like mouth. The one that rolls up into a ball.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what his name is.
But I mean, like, when he met Godzilla, everyone's like, oh my God, they're going to team up together. And then they just start attacking each other and just start destroying each other. And that's where we get the best scene and the best way to end it. And kind of an anticlimactic way to end it is Sergeant Woods is caught in the destruction. He saves an old lady, saves some people. The Jersey Shore people are hanging in a limousine like, hey, are you going to save us? And he just walks away. And Godzilla just fucking laser beams him. But Sergeant Woods was a character you were saying that you did not like.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the perfect example of a moment when that happens, where you roll your eyes and you're like, it's like, really, guys, come on. Like, you didn't need to have this. Look, I find them annoying too. Get it, guys? We're all in on the joke together. Kind of a thing. But to me, Sergeant Woods just seemed like a fucking douchebag.
A little bit.
Like, it's just like, I hate everything. World sucks. I don't even care if it all ends. Whatever. But I guess I'll save some people because that's what I'm here for. Is basically what it is. He's like, they're trying to do like the anti-hero kind of thing. But really, they just give you somebody you don't want to cheer for.
Well, see, I didn't get the whole guy you don't want to cheer for. I got the image of this was a guy who, high school quarterback, on top of the world, then goes over to basically fight for his country in the war and kind of gets hit with a little bit of reality. And of course, like, I'm sitting here talking like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. I've never been in the Army. I'm not obviously not a veteran. But it's just, it seemed like they were going with that whole, I've seen some shit, and now coming back to like a like, and this is the part that kind of hit me because I feel like we're still in this. Like, for example, when it's the slide of the mom that's like, hey, I didn't want this one, Mom. I wanted that one. And the mom's like, it's the only one they had. And then the kid just slaps it out of the mom's hand. Like, basically that kid that's a little bit of a snob and, to be honest, biting a little smack. There's also he passes by the fast food joint and like everyone's like, man, if during World War II there was rationing and how everyone's fat and gluttonous now, and then the like fancy car and with the pollution and everything. So to me it was like, it wasn't I didn't want to root for him. It was more of like, I know where he's coming from kind of a thing. His thoughts were in the right place. Just how he acted on them was kind of like, really, dude? Like, you gonna be a douche about it? Like that one lady that was like, well, you're in the army, like, you Democrat, shouldn't you be, or like, oh, it's great that you're on our side and we don't have another person in the conservatives. And he's like, dude, I'm neither. Like, I'm just for whatever the smartest thing is. Like, and that's to me where it's like his character was in the right place, but was kind of a douche about it, which for like you turned you off from that character.
Yeah, it made me be like,
whatever.
I don't know about you, man. I don't know that I'm into this. And yeah, it's just, you needed something in this one to really hook you, because like I said, it's Godzilla. It's not going to be anything groundbreaking. It's not going to be anything that changes the world. Those psychic twins could have been that. They could have taken a very interesting spin on Godzilla, and maybe, they're going to be, unleashing them from whatever realm or whatever. I don't know. But like, they just kind of,
because it's weird. Before the last issue, they had what I thought was going to be the cliffhanger. This guy in a hut, and he basically sees Batara, and basically looks at two little girls that look like figurines on his books, and is like, his exact line is, something has gone horribly wrong. So it's like, do they have something to do with him? Does he know what's going on? Like,
yeah,
that's where I thought it was going to end. And then it went on into another issue to where we met Sergeant Woods and had his whole story with everything.
Yeah.
And the twins became Queens of Paris with their robes and everything. But yeah, this is one where if you really love Godzilla, then sure, go ahead and read it. But if you pass on this one, you're not going to miss anything.
Yeah, we're not going to blame you for saying no. Is there anything we're kind of missing? It's a short read. I mean, there's really not that much I feel like to actually talk about.
100 pages?
I think it was like 104 or something like that. There's honestly not that much to talk about.
Yeah,
no. Should they read it?
If you're a Godzilla fan, I'd say about 75% yes, you should read it.
You might as well.
If you're not a Godzilla fan or don't care about Godzilla, just hit pass on this one, bro.
Yeah, I feel like it is one of those, like, I guess. I mean, you might as well. Why not? If you're into it. You'll get through it really, really quickly. If anyone's like, I don't know, I mean, I'm interested in the maybe maybe I'll check out. Just, no, you're good. You don't really need to. I would just say for nearly anybody out there, just pass. It's just not worth your time.
Even Godzilla fans, you'd be like, don't waste the time.
There's better things you can do to enjoy Godzilla, I feel like. Unless you're like the hardcore, you got to read everything. You've got a Godzilla bobblehead, and like one of those murals on your walls, I don't know, of Godzilla destroying Tokyo. Then sure, go ahead and have fun with it. But most average people, it's just no thank you on this one. So I think next time we're going to enjoy what we're going to read a little bit more.
I think so.
Because X-Men.
Actually, spoiler alert, as we're recording this, I've already read it, and I'm going to say yes, I did enjoy it.
So next we're going to read in 2 weeks X-Men, the Dark Phoenix saga, obviously, because that's coming out soon. Although people are a little nervous about that movie.
If I wasn't doing a podcast where we reviewed movies, I probably might not see it.
Yeah, I mean, I will see it because it's X-Men, but I don't know if I'm that excited about it.
It's like Sansa. Like, I loved you, Sophie Turner. I loved you so much here at the end of Game of Thrones. Why do you gotta go ahead and ruin that and be a bad Dark Phoenix?
I don't blame her for that, though.
No, it's not her fault, but it's just I hated Sansa. Then I love Sansa.
That's the point.
And now I'm going to hate her again because she's Jean Grey. Like,
well, you're going to hate Jean Grey. You're not going to hate Sansa.
Don't do that to Sophie Turner. Let me have a lasting image of good with Game of Thrones and Sophie Turner.
Game of Thrones, not over yet as we're recording this. Tomorrow is when the finale comes out, so that might change your opinion on that too, for all you know.
True.
We'll see what happens, and it also might change your opinion for that. It might be a fantastic movie.
Which I'm not going to say anything more about Game of Thrones, because apparently I said something during our last mock draft, and people got mad at me for giving up Game of Thrones spoilers.
They all die in the end, is all you need to know. Literally all of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. The Dark Phoenix Saga, if you're not aware, Jean Grey, very quick kind of summary, not summary, but intro
synopsis
for you. Jean Grey gets a little certain power that's really, really strong. Unfortunately, it also kind of messes with her mind, and she wants to kill everyone and everything. The Dark Phoenix Saga. So in 2 weeks, definitely do that. Make sure you give us a rate, a review, whether it's on iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go ahead and give us those 5 stars. Tell people why they should check out this podcast. I also hope that you head to the Patreon and become a patron, even if it's just that $1 bronze tier, so that way you can be part of our Discord and talk directly to us. Or if you want to be on the show, $10 a month gets you that being on the show privilege, or any of our most valuable podcasts. So we'll see you in 2 weeks when we read X-Men: The Dark Phoenix Saga.